Welcome to part 3 of the Worksheet 12 companion video. We are going to finish this one up and finish off practice 9, 10, and 11. So what I did is I did go ahead and I made my UI, which was just kind of added on to stuff we did in part 2 with an input field, submit name button, and this is going to be this text is going to be called name text. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new C# script for this last part since it is going to be a little bit more complex. So I'm going to call this one maybe like names or something like that, and I'm going to make sure that I drop that on my game controller. Kind of nice to start new since there is a lot going on with this. So that's fine that this is still on there, but I also put my names script on there. So more or less what we want to do is we want to be able to click on, we want the user to be able to enter a name, hit submit, and then have it appear in this text object here. So we are going to have to kind of do two different things. So this is the text objects, and sorry about the blip there. So to kind of go back, let's go back to the Unity. This text file will display the names as the user puts one in, clicks the button, it'll display in this text object that I called name text. So we should be good to go. Let me go to the names script I have. Let me make sure I add using Unity Engine .ui at the top. And I know I'm going to need a couple of public class level variables. I'm going to need that input field. And I'm just going to call it input field. I'm going to need that text object called name text. And while I'm at it, I am going to need that string array that's going to hold the 5 names. And since I'm going to need to access it in multiple places in the script, I'm just going to do it at the top. I'm going to make it a private string. We'll call it name array, new string, and we know we are going to have to put 5 names in it. So we'll, not 50, we'll do 5, and we should be good to go. We don't need this start and update, we can just delete that out. So first things first, we do need to make our button click event. We'll make our public void on name button click. And what we want to do is we want to have it add that name to it. So we have to kind of think a little bit because how are we going to know where in the array to put that? Like after how do we know we're putting it in the first slot? Or element 0, element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4. Like, how do we keep track of that? So what we will probably actually need too is we're going to need a counter on here. We'll do it a private int counter so that we know where we are at, so that we know that we are putting it in the correct element. And we ultimately can also use this to help us display stuff correctly. And I guess I lied. I wasn't thinking we do need our void start just so that we can set at the start counter equal to 0. Sorry about that. So we want to start at 0 because it is in element 0. The first one's in element 0, so we want to make sure that we are putting it in the right spot. So on name button click, all we have to do is we need to first grab that name, and we'll just make a string called name and set it equal to input field dot text. We'll then put it in our name array. So we'll say name array at our counter is equal to name. If you really wanted to kind of do this all in one line, you could, because you could just say name array counter is equal to input field.text. But if you need to spell it out, you're more comfortable with this is fine. The last thing we need to do, we need to make sure that we raise that counter. So we'll do counter plus plus. And we should be able to fill that. The next thing we need to make sure that we do is we display our names. And this would be a good opportunity to make a new function, like a nice string returning function, so that we can, call it in multiple places, because we're going to need it in a couple other questions too. So I'm going to call this one like toPrint, and I know it's going to return a string. So I'm just going to go ahead and say nameText.text is equal to toPrint. And I'll define that down here. It's okay that there's a little bit of an error. So we'll say private string toPrint. And we can set this up so that we're going to kind of get rid of that error. We'll just make a string called toReturn. Set that equal to nothing. And then down here, we'll just return toReturn. So now in here, we need to get our information and put it, we need to step through that array and put it in our string right here. So, why don't we try using a for each loop and see how that works? I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem that, even with one, we're going to have a bunch of garbage in the other things, in the other elements. I don't think they're going to be initialized, so this might work. Well, we'll see what happens. It's a good test. No reason not to experiment. So we'll say for each string name in name array, because remember, we can call this whatever we want, and what we're looking at is people's names. So why not call that name rather than element? And string, because it is a string array. And we'll just say toReturn is equal to toReturn plus name plus \n, because we want to put these on different lines. So we don't want like one long string. If you remember how this looks, we want to kind of basically just list them. And then we'll return it. So let's see what happens. It'll be interesting to see how well this works. If not, we can always come back and edit this so that we're using a for loop that only counts up to our counter. And let us, let's fix that. Let's see what it looks like in Unity now. Play. Oh, actually, hold on. I think I gotta set up my script. Unity. Let's go to that game controller. Yeah, I gotta put my input field in my text. Let's see, there we go. All right, so let's see what happens. Oh wait, one more thing, sorry about that. I gotta hook my button up too. I'm just so excited to see this. Actually, it is the names script. There we go. Put my name in there. Oh yeah, okay, so it did work. So those are just blanks. So if we submit that and we do more names. And we should be good. We don't want to accidentally click again because we're going to get that out of range exception. And but we do have that first question. So we're moving right along. Let's move on to the next one. And it is sort the names in alphabetical order. So that seems like it's going to be really tedious, doesn't it? Like, are we going to have to look at every single one once it's submitted and see what the first letter is and then try to figure out where that's going to go? That seems really hard. But it's actually pretty easy. If we open up a window and we Google C# array alphabetical order, and we look around, there's actually a built-in way with arrays to do this. And it's using something called array dots. Let's see. Make sure I look at the right one. Let's see. There's a built-in way to do this, so it's pretty easy. But I'm going to pause it and make sure I find the right one so I don't show you the wrong one. And okay, sorry about that. This is the one that's going to work. It's something called array.sort, and then you put the colors in. The only thing is, I think we're going to have to add something at the top. We'll start typing this own and see if this works. But all we should have to do is, I'm going to make a new button, and make sure that this looks a little bit better. We'll call it sort. So that when we click it, it should sort out that array. And let me add this in, public void on sort button click. And what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that that gets sorted. So all we should need to do is type array dot sort, and it's going to get mad at me because I have to add something at the top. What do I need to add to this one? Alt enter. Using system.array, that's what we have to do. And actually, no, we should just be able to say using system, I think. Yeah. We just need to make sure that we add using system at the top, because otherwise we can't use this array.sort. There's a couple other things that arrays can do, but this is going to be the most useful to use. So sorry, it's a little bit disjointed with this one. So what we did, we're making a new button click event so that when we click the sort button, it's going to sort our array. In order for this to work, at the top, we need to make sure that we add using system. Then down here, what we need to do is we type array.sort, and then inside of here, the array that we want sorted, and we'll sort the name array. The last thing we need to do is we do need to print out our array again. And luckily, we already have a function for that, our private string to print. So we can just say name text dot text is equal to print. No reason to recode that. It's already done for us. And we should be good to go with that one. So let me hook up that button real quick. Not that one, sorry. We'll make sure that this is connected. On sort button click. And we do need to make sure that we're putting in names. And for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to put them in, like, I'm just going to use letters. And then if we click sort, we get, oh, I forgot. Let's add. I think our counter kind of got messed up. Oh, we did. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's try and playing again. I forgot to put 5 in. G A Z R B. Now let's sort them. A, B, G, R, Z. And it works well. So as you can see, we're having some issues with user input error. And I'm not going to go through it in the video, but it would be a really good practice if you try to take some of that into account. For instance, don't let people click the submit name button until there's stuff in here. That should be pretty easy to do. I think we've done that before. We shouldn't be able to hit the sort button until we have all of our names in. Like that should be inactive until we have, the correct number of input. And we should be able to turn off the input name. We should be able to, this should turn off once we have all 5. So that's it for those this part. And the last part I'm going to put in part 4 because that's a completely separate thing. So if we look at it, it's dealing with, let's see, different colored cube prefabs. So this is going to be its own video. So we did these 2 and we'll wrap up the worksheet with the last one.